Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In the last one we created our project, and in this video we are going to allow our player to look around and move so that we are just not this weird immovable, I do not even know what you want to call it. Okay, so to start this out, pretty simple. Let's go to settings, project settings. I already have it open here. And then underneath engine, you're going to want to select input. You'll see these bindings for action mappings and axis mappings. We want to create several of these. So let's start and do this in a strange order because action mappings is on top. Let's click the plus sign and let's type in jump. Underneath this, let's type in spacebar. That's all we want to do there. Underneath axis mappings, we want to create 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to hit this little triangle to see them. We're going to create one called mouse X, and clicking on it might drop down all of them like I just did for me. Mouse Y is another one. We want to have move forward and move right. For move forward and move right, you want to hit this little plus to make sure that there are 2 of them. Mouse X, mouse Y, you can leave this one. So for mouse X, we want to make that mouse X. Pretty crazy stuff for mouse Y. It's not mousy, it's mouse Y. Okay, for move forward, you want to make it W and S, and right, you want to make it D and A. Okay, but one thing you might notice is these little scale things here. So for Y, we don't play inverted, we're not weird, we're going to make it -1. For move forward, for S, since S would be backward and we're making one for forward, we want to make that -1. Same thing for A. A would be left, it's opposite of right, so we want it to be -1 as our scale. That's all set up and well and good, so you can technically exit on out of there. The next thing that we want to do is underneath our blueprints, we want to open up our player controller. All right, you'll see this weird camera. Ignore the camera, delete the default nodes there. And what we're going to do is we're going to call upon those 2 mouse inputs that we made. So we'll type in mouse X. You want to click the axis event, because that's what we just created. And mouse Y, not you. There we go. For mouse X, we want to add yaw inputs, if I can spell. There we go. And the axis value is going to be that value. Now, if you wanted to change this by a variable, you could do a little multiplication here and set to a variable and change your sensitivity settings that way. That might not have made sense, what I just said, but don't worry about it. It's not important. Okay. For mouse Y, you want to add pitch, plug in axis value to value. Let's go ahead and select the whole thing, hit C to make a comment box, and we'll just call this mouse input, like that. I don't like the bubbles, and I'll make it red, like we did before. There we go. That's all we want to do. Next to compile this dropdown, go ahead and hit save on compile and do on success only. That means that whenever you hit compile, it'll also save. So you don't have to hit compile save every single time. Good to know these little things. Trust me, people. Like Control S right there. Bam. Next up is our HUD. We're going to head over to the event graph in here. And we're going to do event draw receive HUD. You'll see what this does in a second. Out of the execution wire, you want to do draw rectangle. Or draw rect or whatever. And then out of size X, pull out an asterisk, do a multiplication for an int times a float. And then copy paste it and do it for size Y. You want to plug this in for screen X, size X, screen X, size Y, screen Y. We're going to multiply this by 0.5. What we're doing here is we're drawing a little rectangle on our screen. Let's hit the color and make it white, and we'll make it 2 by 2. W and H are width and height, so not pretty straightforward there. 0.5 is essentially taking the size of the screen in the X and in the Y, and it's cutting it in half. So just to demonstrate this, if I were to hit play, you'll now see, I can look around for one thing, and you'll see a little dot there. That's going to be helpful for us when we make our reticle. So you can just see the center of the screen. So the controller and the HUD are all good. The last thing that we want to do is we want to allow our player to move with WAS and D, and we want him to be able to jump. So let's open up our player. I think all these settings, actually go ahead and use controller rotation yaw, uncheck that with the VP player self. Undo that. Okay, actually I'm going to make a new event graph and I'm going to call it movement. If you want to just add a new event graph, you just hit this little plus on new graph. The reason I'm doing that is just for organizational purposes. I want to put all of my sort of movement components, jumping, sprinting, moving, in one event graph so that there's just not like one conglomerate of events all in one graph. I like to stay organized. It's important. So right click, and we're now going to call move forward, not the function, but the axis event that we created. And as you can probably guess, we want to do the same thing for move right. Okay. Out of move forward, we want to add a movement input. And we want to do the same thing. I copy paste that for move right. And the axis value is going to be scale value, just like before. But out of world direction, we want to get the forward, not the forward, forward. Why? Was I spelling that wrong? Must have. Okay. Forward vector for forward, and then world direction out of right. You want to get the right vector. Dragging out of any one of these rotators, you want to make a rotator. This bottom one right here. You can actually plug that into both. And I'm not going to go over in too much detail what the heck is happening right here because this is what's normally set up by default. So it's really not that crazy. What we're doing here, we're just kind of setting up, like if you made like a third-person project or first-person project, this script is already in here by default. So out of make a rotator, you can drag out of anywhere and say break the rotator. Oh. If you hold down Control on any node and click, you can actually grab it and plug it into some other one. So we want the Z's to be connected. And out of this rotation, we want to get control rotation. So we're getting the rotation of our controller there. I believe that is correct. So let's highlight the whole thing, hit C, and we'll say WASD movement import. Yes, 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 yes. There we go. Like that. Last but not least, let's do our thing for the jump. So we have action event jump is what we want. On pressed, these are already built in, so Epic makes it very nice and easy for us. Pressed, you want it to be jump, and then released is stop jumping. And then let's comment box around that, and we'll say jump action event or whatever. Sure. Whatever you want to call it. Whatever makes it easy. Whatever floats your boat, let's say. Compile and save, and so now when we hit play, we can look around, we can move forward, backward, right, left, and we can jump up and down. So now we are a character that can move and stuff. Okay, so here's the script. If you need to see it again, just pause or do whatever you need to do. There it is. But yeah, that should be it. So in the next video, now that we have our character set up, we're going to start adding some content packs. And then once we do that, we will start actually doing some cool stuff, like adding the guns and creating our character and giving them arms and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, and I will see you in the next video.